So I just randomly got this fusion rifle from Archon's Forge. Now I will say this, man, when you first look at it, you're like, what is this ancient looking piece of shit? Because I mean, there's nothing really wonderfully looking about it. If you'd like to judge things by its cover, then you would be judging this weapon wrong, because that's what I did. I decided, well, you know, the stats look pretty decent on it, and you know, it looks like it could be good, but it looks god awful ugly, man. Don't even put it on your bookshelf, okay? But I decided, hey man, despite its ugliness, you know, I'm gonna put it on, man. We always like to be fashionable here on the channel, but hey, we're diving back into the 16th century, so let's see what we got going on with this damn log cabin looking thing. So I decided to check out the stats. Okay, what are we looking at, man? This thing, of course, is like a dart blade spike, but it's not necessarily as slow as one. I mean, I realized that the charge time is not that ridiculous. They're at 16. And then I realized real quickly, wait a minute, this thing can hit 50 per bolt. 50 per bolt, guys. That means it can kill somebody in just 4 bolts. That's a huge deal, because only two fusion rifles within this archetype, this 16 charge rate archetype, and then of course around the 94 to 95, the vacancy itself cannot even hit 50 per bolt. Okay, only Saladin's Vigil can hit that, and Midas Reckoning from King's Fall Raid. But who the hell uses that thing? Look at the stability of 20 on that thing. You don't want to use that. You want to use Saladin's Vigil, dude. It's got all the right things in all the right places, man. Great stability there at 71, impact of 94. You throw that thing on linear compensator, you are ready to rock out with 50 per bolt, dude. And that is just the base. I was actually bumping mine around with a little bit of an extra charge rate, having those accelerated coils to use up in Rumble, and even hitting 48 per bolt, man. I had no problems dealing with the enemies up close, and that was what I was using. So let's go into my loadout real quick. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I have loaded out, but I'm also going to go over real quick what you would want preferably on this fusion rifle to, of course, reach that I guess that god roll, what we would call it. Linear compensator is definitely what you want to go for as far as barrel types. Everyone I've ever talked to that has really dealt with fusion rifles the most has said linear compensator is where it's at. Always trying to get your fusion rifle with that linear compensator. So hell, I'm completely fine with that, man, and that's what I've been loading mine on recently, and it's been doing extremely well. Now what you see right here is small bore, accelerated coils, and hot swap. This is my Rumble setup. I only use accelerated coils really in Rumble, and then if I go into 6s, I will throw that on. That's right, guys, single point sling and just small bore. Now, really, there is no reason for me to be using single point sling. It doesn't necessarily just make my life just a shit ton easier, but I want to make sure I take it off accelerated coils, because I have, usually in 6s, you've got enough time to, like, you know, put distance between you and the enemy. There's not a lot of rushing like you would in Rumble, where you need something like a fast charge rate, like to have that accelerated coils on it. And so, you know, just throw that on there and actually reach your maximum potential as far as damage goes. And I do have brace frame right here, and there was a few times I put it on brace frame in like super close, like a map such as like Asylum that you saw there in Rumble is what I was loading out brace framed on. But for the most part, I will say small bore was doing okay. So let's get back to the gameplay, and let's talk a little bit about the stats that you would want preferably on this fusion rifle, because it's already base default stats, one of the best fusion rifles, but again, perks always makes the weapon. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about making or maximizing the most potential out of this fusion rifle. Now, I'm gonna put a description, something in the description below, just a link to a Reddit thread on Crucible Playbook. You can, of course, go see this, take a look at it. It will go into more detail about what I'm about to talk about. So essentially, with this weapon, you'll definitely want to go with linear compensator. That is just the barrel perk you want on this weapon. It keeps everything vertical. It goes really hand in hand with your fusion rifles. So stick with linear compensator. For your first column perks, man, again, you saw me using small bore. A lot of people say rifle barrel would be the preferred perk right here, simply because base stability wise, this gun is already great at. Now, I will say this, small bore and brace frame, I'm completely fine with having those two in that first column set of perks. in Rumble, I tend to sometimes swap to brace frame, and in doing so, it's not that I just absolutely need it, but in some situations, some maps that are very close, I would like to have that brace frame perk. So for the second column, the biggest choice there is of course accelerated coils or not. You know, that's a huge one, and again, it depends on map type. And it also depends on the playlist in which you're playing. So accelerated coils is definitely something I will highly suggest in Rumble, man. I think you really need to have it in Rumble. Any type of 6s or maybe even 3s, you don't have to probably have accelerated coils. But definitely in Rumble, especially with people just running around and shotgun warrioring the whole entire time, I really highly suggest going with the accelerated coils. In the third and final column, again, this is something that's up in the air as well. Rangefinder and hot swap are two really big ones, man. And I've got to say, man, I find that hot swap is my favorite perk on this one. I've always liked fusion rifles for its hot swap perk, but I don't know, it seems as if hot swap plays a huge role in those bolts, man. And so I really believe hot swap to be the better perk here. Rangefinder is still a great perk to have, and I don't see you going wrong with it. Like I said, guys, my preference has always been hot swap. You can go look at this thread yourself and tell me what you think or whatever your favorite loadout is for this weapon, of course. But this is, of course, just what my preference is. Either way it goes, what I have in front of me is my favorite, more preferred loadout. And I can tell you right now, just using it for the past few days, it has done wonderfully well for me. And you can't go wrong with this fusion rifle, despite it looking like it's been held together by some electrical tape or steel banding of some sort. It is a beast, man. Anyways, fellas, thanks so much for coming and watching. Hey guys, come check me out on Twitch. I'll be streaming all day when Iron Banner actually drops, and hopefully we can get some good loot, fellas. So anyways, thanks so much for coming and watching. I'll catch y'all later.
Double down.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.